Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. And this was a loaded slate, 13 games, 26 teams playing. If your favorite team didn't play in the in-season tournament semifinals, they were playing here on Friday night, which means we've got a lot of games to get into, a lot of takeaways, and not much time for an intro. So let's go ahead and break down these games. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. And as always, we'd love to hear your takeaways down below in the comments. Let's kick things off with Thunder versus Warriors. If you're new to the channel, first of all, hey, name's Cone, you should subscribe. But second of all, I'm a diehard Oklahoma City Thunder fan. I consider myself the biggest Thunder fan on the entire planet. And one of the most stressful parts about being a Thunder fan is any game against the Golden State Warriors. I don't know what it is, but every time these two teams face off, it doesn't matter if it's in Golden State, it's in Oklahoma City. If it was 7 years ago or so when we're facing the Warriors and Steph Curry has that double bang three in his unanimous MVP season, the Western Conference Finals following that, and every game since then, the game is going to be unbelievably stressful. It's like Adam Silver finds a way to turn up the drama knob that only goes up to 10 to 300 whenever these two teams face off. It gives me a heart attack almost every single time, and this game was no exception. Back and forth. For the beginning of the game, Shai started off kind of slow, so the Warriors built this big lead, but then they battled back by halftime, and in the third quarter, the Warriors again get a lead, but we kind of went on a run because third quarter Shai is unstoppable. In the fourth quarter, things start to look grim. The Warriors build this lead, and Steph Curry hits a huge three to put them up by 3. I thought he did it to us again because he seems to love to hit game winners against the Oklahoma City Thunder, but we managed to send the game to overtime, and in overtime the Thunder go off, but then the Warriors make a run, and it seems like a game that we thought was out of reach was no longer out of reach, but the Thunder end up surviving. Ludor hits a layup to put this thing away. The Thunder win, winning the season series 3-1, and I really hope we never have to play the Golden State Warriors ever again. I'm sick of facing Steph Curry. For the first 3 quarters, he wasn't that much of a factor, but in the fourth quarter, he was like, oh, I'm Steph Curry. I'm one of the greatest players of all time, and was hitting the most ridiculous shots ever. The Warriors, whether they're good or bad, are extremely frustrating to face if you're the Thunder, but the Thunder managed to get this win, strengthening their grip on the 2 seed. They now have sole possession of the 2nd seed in the Western Conference. It's been a great season so far, and like has been the case for a majority of this season, this win was led by 3 players in particular: Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Williams. As the Thunder are heading into this new era, and really all throughout the rebuild, the question was who are going to be the core 3 guys. Years ago, it was Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. Eventually, it was just KD and Russ. But those 3 guys, KD, Russ, and Harden, were the 3 that kicked this whole thing off. They brought the Thunder back to the finals, or I guess to the finals for the first time in franchise history since they moved to Oklahoma City. And it felt like they were going to be the next great young duo in the NBA. Obviously, didn't end up working out. But coming into this new era, I was wondering who's going to be this next big 3 for us. Shai was the clear guy. He was clearly going to be the superstar. I've been saying for years that Shai was going to become an MVP type player, could be the best player in a championship team. And every single day, I think he proves that more. But the question was, who are going to be those next 2 guys? And at this point, I think it's pretty clear that the other 2 are Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. And in this game, the big 3 stepped up unbelievably. They are incredibly talented. They fit together so well, and I think all 3 are going to be perennial all-stars. Shai, of course, is going to be a superstar player. He already is at this point, and the other 2 have the potential to make massive impacts all throughout their tenures in Oklahoma City, and I believe that these 3 core guys are going to lead the Thunder to an NBA championship at some point soon. So let's go ahead and talk about them each. First of all, we've got Shai. We've got to start with him. He's the best player on the team, one of the best players in the world, and at this point, I think he's at the very worst a top 3 MVP candidate, and I personally would have him as far up as 2. In this game, puts up 38 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals with not a single turnover. Shai is one of the most reliable scorers on the entire planet. He may even be the single most reliable scorer there is in the game. If he's not giving you a 30-plus point performance on 50% shooting or better, it's an extreme off night for Shai. He is the model of consistency in the NBA right now, and it's kind of the same way every game. It's mid-range pull-ups, it's turnaround mid-range jumpers, going to that baseline shot that he really likes, the most crafty finishes around the rim that you'll ever see, using his length, using a lot of finesse, sometimes some power. He will hit a couple threes here and there. He loves a step back 3 that he hits at a pretty solid clip. Shai's going to kill you from all over the court, but in particular in that mid-range area and attacking the rim. You know that's where he wants to get to, and a lot of times just doesn't matter because using his length, his quickness, his ability to stop on a dime seemingly at whim, he has an unlimited bag of tricks. His handle is underrated, got one of the smoothest games in the league. This really nice Euro step. He finds a way to slither past defenses and get to the cup. Shai is a special player. I really don't think we've ever seen a guy that plays quite like him, and it's turned him into an MVP candidate, a top 10 player in the world. A lot of that has been the offense, but a lot of it is also the defense, because I don't think a lot of people realize how good Shai has been defensively this season. Last year, he took a jump to become a pretty solid defender, and this year, I think he's reached all defensive caliber. Like I mentioned, he had 5 steals in this game, but the game before, he had 6 steals. The game before that, had 5 steals. So he's played 3 games in December and has 16 steals in those 3 games. He hasn't had a game below 5 steals since the calendar turned over to December. That's ridiculous. And on the season, he's averaging 2.8 steals per game, which is so much more than anybody else. He's almost a full steal ahead of the second place guy, Donovan Mitchell. It's not even a competition at this point. He's causing absolute havoc in the passing lanes, poking the ball away from opposing offensive players, wrapping around on defenders and poking the ball away on entry passes. Some people are going to say, oh, he's just a steal merchant. They think he might be trying to jump passing lanes and it's at the detriment of the team defense. No, Shai's gotten so good at going for those steals, but at the same time, playing conservatively enough to still be able to get back and defend the guy that he's guarding. He uses his length incredibly well, his physicality. He blocks a lot of shots, way more shots than you would imagine for a guard. Has 1 block in all 3 of his past games. Shai is a special defender, and it's reached the point where I think he is all defensive caliber. As much as like Chet, Dort, others, Case and Wallace as a rookie do for our defense, Shai is one of the most important pieces of this team. He has gone from a guy that I didn't know if he was ever going to be like this type of lockdown defender to one of the best two-way players on the entire planet. There aren't a lot of guys that have this offensive and defensive impact in the entire league. Oh, and also did I mention that Shai is unbelievably clutch. He's currently 8th in the NBA in total clutch points this season, while shooting 61.5% from the field without a single turnover at all in any of the clutch moments that he's played this entire season. That's unbelievable. He's making a case for Clutch Player of the Year, for MVP, for an all-defensive team. Shai has reached one of the top pinnacles in the entire sport out of anybody we're seeing play right now. And when Shai's not on the court, a guy that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting is Jalen Williams, J-Dub. I'll probably refer to him as Dub a lot throughout this video, so if you hear that, that's who I'm referring to. Don't get confused. J-Dub puts up 28 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a block on 12 of 15 shooting in this game. Like I mentioned earlier, Shai started kind of shaky. He was 2 of 8 in this game to begin, obviously turned it up a lot later, but the whole time Dub was the consistent scoring threat that kept us in this game. He's got a lot of similar skills to Shai when I watch him play. A knockdown mid-range jumper that he can hit with ease on a pull-up, on a fadeaway. He loves going to either the right or the left. It doesn't matter. He can fade away and hit a jumper from either side, can finish with either hand. He uses a lot of the similar craftiness that you see from a guy like Shai, whether he's hitting a scoop layup, he's powering it down with a dunk, he's hitting this like kind of hook shot layup that he really likes to go to as well. Dub finds some impossible angles, and a lot of that is his physicality and his ridiculous wingspan that just allows him to attack from angles that most players can't. He also uses that wingspan, that physicality really well on defense. He gets a lot of tough assignments and he consistently holds his own, also getting a good number of steals using that wingspan. Just the Thunder have so many guys that have length, have the ability to switch on a number of guys, and Dub is one of those important pieces in this nearly league best offense. He's also got ridiculous athleticism, which helps him be that great defender, be that explosive offensive piece. And we've used him a lot this season in a lead ball handling role when Shai's not on the court. Particularly at the beginning of fourth quarters, Shai sits. He plays the entire third quarter, and at the beginning of the fourth, he's not out there. And the guy that carries most of the offensive load in those moments is Jalen Williams. He had to do it again tonight. We needed some big buckets when the Warriors are going on a bit of a run with Shai off the court. Dub kept us in this game again, 28 points on 12 of 15 shooting. He was so incredibly important. He did it against the Warriors in the game where Chet hit that turnaround 3 to go ahead and send it to overtime. That win. He does it pretty much all the time. He's one of the most unheralded heroes of what we've done so far this season. He deserves more love, and every time I watch him, I think it's so clear that he's a star in the making. He is going to be an all-star player very, very soon. He just has so many skills. He's too good at so many areas of the game. There's no way he's not an all-star within the next couple of years. And rounding out the big 3 is the big Chet Holmgren. He has been the best rookie in the league so far. I think most people have realized that at this point. He's the rookie of the year. And this game, another great performance when we needed him. 21 points, 7 boards, 1 assist, and 3 blocks. Just adds so much to this team on both ends. I knew coming into things that Chet was theoretically the perfect final puzzle piece to this equation, but he's just been even better than I could have imagined so far. Offensively, so polished in the early going of his career. Really creative handle for a big man. He's able to put the ball on the deck, attack the basket, pull up for threes. He's got great touch around the rim, just a really soft touch on a lot of those layups that he takes. he's special. And this all, of course, goes along with his transformative defense, which is also really critical, especially down the stretch in the fourth quarter when the Thunder needed some stops. The Warriors were going on a run. Chet clamped up defensively, was switching on everybody, was holding his own regardless of who he's defending, protecting the rim at a high level. Chet is a dynamic force on both ends. And there are two moments in particular in this game that really stood out from Chet that I think tell the story of him so far throughout the season. The first moment are the end of game free throws that he hit to go ahead and send this game to overtime in the first place. Steph Curry hits the big three, the Thunder get the ball back, and they end up getting the ball to Chet Holmgren, who immediately puts up the shot. Draymond Green goes for the foul, but he fouls him on the shooting motion, so Chet is going to the line 3 free throws to send this game to overtime. It's a lot to ask of a rookie. He's a great free throw shooter. He's been huge in these clutch moments before, but if he had missed one, I wouldn't have blamed him. But instead, Stone Cold looks bored at the free throw line, basically, knocks down all 3 of them. It didn't matter. He has been so clutch this season. Against the Golden State Warriors in particular, I think Warriors fans have to hate Chet Holmgren at this point, but just really against anybody, he's been clutch. He is 10th in the entire NBA in total clutch points this season, and in those moments, he shoots 62% from the field and 57% from deep. He's efficient, he's a constant weapon. It doesn't matter if Chet is really struggling scoring the game when you get to these final moments. Chet's going to find a way to deliver, and he did exactly that. Got us to overtime, where he also came up big. Some great defense, a huge corner 3 to go ahead and put us up big. The Warriors ended up cutting the lead down a little bit, but Chet Holmgren has a huge moment where Isaiah Joe misses a 3. Chet grabs the offensive board, puts it back up and in for the and one, and he, Shai, and J-Dub, the big 3 of this new Thunder era, lose their minds. Shai is not a guy that very often shows emotion. He's kind of calm and collected, doesn't freak out too much unless, there's a game winner or something. But Shai was losing it, pounding on Chet's chest, screaming. J-Dub's getting hyped. Chet's losing it. The Thunder fans exploded in the arena. It reminded me a lot of some of those Russ, Katie, Harden moments where you take a look at what they're doing out there and you say, these are the 3 guys that are hopefully going to lead us to a championship. These players are the big 3. They are the core. That's how I feel about Chet, Shai, and J-Dub. I think a lot of people across the world are going to slowly realize that. This game, I think, was a great example of it, where Shai is the superstar. He's going to lead the charge. Dub is that consistent secondary force that can do a little bit of everything, and Chet is the transformative defensive center that's going to clean up all the defensive mistakes, block some shots, and be incredibly clutch as well as just this unicorn that can handle the ball as a 7-footer and knock down threes with ease. These 3 guys complement each other so perfectly, and they're playing this well off of each other only 20-something games into their first season together. Like Shai and Dub played together last season, but Chet's NBA career is just starting. They've got so much room to grow as a trio, as a team, as individual players, and they're already playing this well as a grouping. And that moment where Shai, Chet, J-Dub are losing their minds, the Thunder crowd is going ballistic. It was one of the loudest pops I've heard from the Thunder crowd since the Russell Westbrook era. The players, people that I know that were at the game, said that it was one of the best atmospheres that we've seen. That was a moment where it feels like the Thunder are truly back. Obviously, they've been playing great this entire season, but that moment is one that I think a lot of people are going to look back on as the moment where a lot of people realized, hey, this Thunder team is legit. These 3 guys are stars in the making. Shai, of course, is already a superstar, but the other 2 are going to become all-star players, and I think we'll look back on this moment as one that truly defined the beginning of this rapid ascension that the Thunder are on right now. To make things even better, Shai's 25 years old, Chet's 21, J-Dub is 22. They're all still so incredibly young. I think they can each get drastically better, which is terrifying for the rest of the league. They can each play on, off ball, score, defend. It's a guard, wing, big trio, which is a perfect big 3 to have. They're going to be scary for years to come, and the league should be terrified of this trio's potential out there. Last couple of notes on the Thunder before I move on. I want to give a shout out to Lou Dort. Defense has been so good this season. There was one moment where he was grabbing at his Achilles. They had to call a timeout, get him off the court, and I was really scared he had some significant injury, but thankfully enough, he was fine. He came back in the game a few possessions later. It must have been a cramp or something like that. I didn't see them say anything about that in the media, but I'm guessing it was something like that. He comes back in, clamps up on Steph Curry on the final possession of regulation to ensure the Thunder get it to overtime, and just played great defense all throughout. I swear he drew 50,000 offensive fouls on this one. He's just so much fun. I'm really glad he's on this team. Also, Josh Giddey doesn't play too much in this 125 minutes. Just hasn't been good so far this year. He doesn't feel like a natural fit for this team. It's clunky. He's not being guarded at all on the perimeter. And all that combined with the current investigation the NBA is doing into him, which I don't think I've said it on the channel quite yet, but if anything even close to the stuff that we've heard about Josh Giddey, the allegations that we've seen, if any of that is even close to being true, get him off this team immediately. I don't want him anywhere near the franchise. I honestly wish he wasn't even playing right now while the investigation is ongoing, but he is, and when he's been playing, it's been really rough. I just don't know if he's a long-term fit for this team. I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone sooner than later, to be honest. On the Warriors side, I think there's one stat that really just tells the story perfectly in this game: 28 turnovers. That's the most by any team in the league this season. They were careless with the ball, throwing it around. The Thunder were getting a lot of steals. They had lazy passes, just not cohesive offense at all out there, which has been kind of the story this entire season. Steph Curry wasn't involved as much as I thought he should be, because at the end of the game, he's torching us, but for a majority of the game, wasn't really much of a factor. He was kind of just playing off ball in the corner. The Warriors are just a mess right now. They don't look at all like the team I thought they might this season. I know they're dealing with an injury to Chris Paul, and Wiggins has dealt with an injury, but also he just hasn't looked good. They've just been a disaster so far, and I don't know when the season turns around. Moving on from that game, I want to quickly talk for a moment about three of the worst teams that I've ever seen. It's the three worst teams in the NBA right now: in the Wizards, the Spurs, and the Pistons. Wizards lost by 27 to the Nets. Bulls end up beating the Spurs by 9. Wemby did have a great game, shout out to him. And the Magic end up beating the Pistons by 32 points. These three teams combined over their last 49 games are 1-48. And you know where that only win came from? When the Pistons and the Wizards played each other. So a team physically had to win. And with the way they've been playing this season, I wouldn't be surprised if they just called it a tie. It's been awful this season for all these teams. The Spurs, I think, are on a 16-game losing streak. The Wizards are on a really bad one. The Pistons right now are on a 19-game losing streak, the longest in the NBA this season. Up there in the ranks for one of the longest of all time. Pretty sure they just broke a franchise record for the longest. They started the season 2-1. I can kind of excuse the losing streaks for San Antonio and Washington. Obviously, they're not good. You want to be a lot better than this, even if you are in a rebuild and you're tanking. But the Pistons are another story, because they've been tanking for years. This was supposed to be their leap season where they contend for the play-in, or they're kind of close to that and they look a lot better. But no, they've lost 19 straight games. And when I look at their schedule, I don't know when they're going to win next. Next game I want to talk about was Clippers versus Jazz, primarily because Kawhi Leonard was amazing. 41 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, easily his best game of the season. And it felt like a game where Kawhi said, hey, I'm still Kawhi Leonard. I can do this. He was hitting like floating 3-pointers at the end of this game, just kind of doing anything out there. And the Clippers have been rolling. They're above 500. They're, I think, 8-3 or so in their last 11 games. They've kind of figured things out. I still see a lot of moments where they're shaky. They've had some really bad losses still, but it feels like they're getting a bit better. They're building that chemistry. And the more that I look at this team, I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs. They've just got too much talent. They do need to make some moves, I believe, to become like championship contenders, because they've got a lot of holes. But ultimately, they've been looking a lot better recently, and as someone who has ragged on them a lot since the James Harden trade, I've got to give them credit where it's due. Meanwhile, the Utah Jazz have also, like the other three teams we just talked about, been really bad. Lauri Markkanen's been injured, and when he's not playing, the Jazz basically have no chance to win. Next, let's talk Rockets Nuggets. The Rockets finally get a win on the road. It's been so hard for them to do that this season, and they do so in Denver, where no team had won at all so far this season, so that's a big win for them. They had a huge lead, I think 25 points about when there was 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and the Nuggets almost came back. They went on this huge run. The game got really close, but the Rockets were able to put things away. There were some technicals down the stretch, some questionable calls, some bad turnovers from Jokic, who has been really, really bad in his last 2 games, which is weird to say because Jokic really never has down games. He shot, I believe, 9 of 32 against the Clippers the other night, the worst shooting game of pretty much his entire career, and tonight he shot just 9 of 26. It's weird to see Jokic struggle. Again, we never see this, and I think he's fine. I just had to note it because it's a crazy statistical anomaly that Jokic is this inefficient, one of the single most efficient scorers of all time. Jalen Green was great for the Rockets in this game. It's been a pretty down year for him when I was expecting a bit more. He did have 25 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. Hopefully we get more of this from him down the line. I like that he was tied for the most shots on this team. I think he needs to be a lot more aggressive, and they need to get him more involved. And final game I'm going to go in-depth into is Hornets versus Raptors, mainly because Brandon Miller has been really good this year, and I haven't talked about him enough. 20 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists on 7 of 15 shooting. Has had a really good rookie campaign. I don't think a lot of people realize that he's putting up right around 15 points per game, 4 boards, and 2 assists. While shooting 40% from deep, he's been really reliable as an outside threat for them, which they haven't had that many reliable scorers this season. LaMelo Ball, who is easily their most reliable guy, is out with injury at the moment. We don't know when he's going to be back. But in the meantime, Brandon Miller has stepped up and he's been great. For all the flack that me and many others gave the Hornets for picking Brandon Miller in this spot, he's been really good. Got to give him a lot of credit. He's also been been really solid defensively. I liked his effort on that end. Feels like he's going to be a really good two-way wing for years to come. Meanwhile, Scottie Barnes tried to will the Raptors to a win in this one, but they came up just a bit short. He had 31 points, 10 boards, and 10 assists, a 30-point triple-double. One of the best games of Scottie Barnes' career, particularly because he had 15 points in the fourth quarter, trying to make the comeback despite the Raptors being down big. He had a chance to tie this game at the end of regulation with a pull-up three and ends up rimming out. You can't do everything on any given night. Scottie was great. The Raptors continue to play kind of meh. I just hope the blow up is coming at some point soon, because it's clear that Scottie is the guy. You need to put younger pieces around him, look forwards to the future, rather than trying to make this thing work still when it's not doing so. To go ahead and wrap up the rest of the games, the Sacramento Kings beat the Phoenix Suns behind 34 points from De'Aaron Fox, including 23 in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter, Fox shows up again and again. It's inevitable at this point. The Cavaliers beat the Heat with Spider dropping 27, 13, and 6. The Timberwolves beat the Grizzlies behind another big Gobert game. He had 16 points, 20 boards. Cat gives them 24. Anthony Edwards leaves this one with a hit pointer, only played 4 minutes, I believe. Just started the game, attempted a shot, and realized, hey, I can't really do this right now. Hopefully he's all good. I'm guessing this is stemming from him falling really hard on his hip a few games ago against the Thunder. Really hope he's able to come back and play consistently soon. The Celtics beat the Knicks behind a 30 ball from Derek White, one of the most underrated players in the league. 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists from Jason Tatum. Jalen Brown earns his first career ejection. Shout out to him. And finally, the Mavericks beat the Blazers behind a Luka Doncic 32-point, 10 rebound, 6 assist game. They also got 23, 6, and 7 from Dante Exum. Not a sentence I would have ever expected to say in 2023. Anthony Simons had 30 points, but kind of the story of this one for Dallas in particular was Kyrie leaving this game early with a really bad-looking leg injury. Dwight Powell falls on him. The leg kind of snaps to the floor. It didn't seemingly break or anything. They're getting an MRI on him. Hopefully everything's good with Kyrie. It would suck to see him get injured at this point. The Mavericks have been playing well as of late, but I guess we'll just have to wait for an update right now. I'm not going to show a video because it's kind of graphic. With all that being said, those are my takeaways from these games. Comment down below what your takeaways were. Like I mentioned earlier, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy. Helps the channel out way more than you can imagine. And also let me know what you think about this Thunder Big Three. Do you think Shai is the MVP? Where do you have him in your race right now? Where do you have Chet in your Rookie of the Year race? Could Chet or Jada be an All-Star this season? Do you think they'll be All-Stars next year, within the next few years? What do you think their ceilings are? And do you think this Big Three will go ahead and lead the Thunder to a title at some point in their tenures? For now, though, I really appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.